This man saw a weird cage by the road. When he looked closer, he screamed in shock. Paul couldn't believe his eyes and felt really sick. How could anyone do this? He wished he had stopped earlier. Things could have been very different. Thinking about it made him feel even sicker. Earlier in the day, Paul drove down that road, but the traffic was heavy. He was focused on getting to his appointment because he was already running late. As he drove by, he saw something shiny in the bushes but didn't think much of it since he was in a hurry. His mind quickly went back to worrying about his meeting. Later that afternoon, Paul drove down the same road again, this time without any rush. He remembered seeing something strange earlier. The traffic was lighter, giving him the chance to check it out. He slowed down and saw it looked like a box, but it was shiny, which made him curious. Curiosity got the best of him, so he turned around and went back. He pulled over and laughed at himself, thinking it was silly to go on a treasure hunt for something shiny. He thought it was probably nothing, especially on a big road without much foot traffic. How could anything important be there? It turns out that it was very, very unlikely that this object was lost. Instead, some heartless people decided to ditch the item and its contents next to the road, and somehow they were able to forget the horrible deed they had done. How else could they go on with their life without coming back right away? Either way, Paul was now going to find something that would blow his mind and horrify him. He got out of his vehicle and walked to what he could now see was a cage. The man noticed the strange cage by the road. Looking closer, he screamed in horror. Paul couldn't believe what he was seeing. It made him feel sick. He couldn't believe that he had just driven past and it took hours for him to go back. What would have happened if he didn't stop? It was scary and shocking because Paul was looking down at a crate full of puppies. The crate was packed with pups. He couldn't even count them because it was hard to see where one ball of fluff started and another began. He looked at the lock of the cage. It had a zip tie keeping it closed. The door was on the top, and he wanted to grab his phone and also his emergency toolbox that he kept in his car. He used his pliers and cut the zip tie off. The cage was large, and it was filled with puppies. As much as he would like to take them all to safety, he couldn't. If he took the puppies out of the cage or tried to place them in his car, it would be hard to control them or keep track of all of them. As sad as they looked, the cage was the safest place for them to be at the moment. He had to leave them inside the cage for a while longer. He tried to scratch all of them, but they started jumping up and on top of each other. They tried to huddle up, scared of Paul. It was sad to see. There was one of the puppies, a black little pup that seemed interested in him. The puppy stood up against the cage, and unable to resist, Paul picked him up to give him attention and love. He held him close, and the puppy fell asleep against Paul. But he felt bad for the rest of the puppies. They needed to get out of there. They were so young and helpless, they had to be saved. Paul knew that he had to get help. He called the RSPCA, and they promised to send a team right away. Paul was shocked by the puppies. He knew some people treated animals badly, but why dump a bunch of cute puppies? He thought it would be easy to find them homes. However, a few puppies looked weak and were swaying. The crate was in direct sunlight, so he moved it to the shade and gave them water from his car. Some puppies didn't get up to drink, worrying him more. He prayed each passing vehicle was the rescue team. Finally, the rescue team arrived in the afternoon. The puppies had been out since at least the morning. The team started taking the puppies out and loading them into smaller crates. They couldn't believe how many puppies kept coming out of the crate. There were 20 in total, 14 males and 6 females, all terrified. As they were picked up, the puppies tried to get away, huddling together for comfort. The rescuers held them close while moving them. Paul carried the dark puppy to the vehicle, and it broke his heart slightly when he had to place the pup inside the vehicle. He didn't know if he would ever see him again, but at least he was doing well. The same could not be said for all of the puppies. The last little pup in the crate did not look good. The tiny female was groaning in pain, and she struggled to move. They picked her up carefully and gently carried her to their vehicle. These puppies seemed to be cockapoos or poodle crosses. Normally, they could be valuable puppies, so finding so many discarded was super strange. They were all clean, and they didn't have fleas, so it was weird. They wondered if it was because most of them were males and less valuable for breeding. But then it didn't make sense that they abandoned the females too. Could the puppies be carrying a disease? They had no way of knowing why the puppies were abandoned at that point. They would come back to it. For now, their biggest concern was getting the puppies to the vet. As they drove off, Paul watched with mixed feelings, sad to see them go, but relieved they were safe. He couldn't bear to think of the 20 puppies getting sicker if they hadn't been found. He was grateful his curiosity had led him to them. But questions lingered. Why were the puppies dumped there? Did the owners know something they didn't? The puppies were rushed to the vet and given fluids with glucose. They were all severely dehydrated, raising concerns that they might be much sicker than they appeared. There was a fear they had parvovirus, a deadly and contagious illness common in puppies, possibly why they were abandoned. However, as days passed, the puppies grew stronger and remained healthy, except for one very sick puppy. She was anemic and struggling to breathe, but the rest of the puppies seemed to be a miracle of survival. The puppy was in a lot of pain. As they did scans and checkups, they found something heartbreaking. The puppy had a lot of issues inside her tiny body. She had ribs missing, and her lungs were malformed, among other things. It was amazing that she had survived as long as she did, but looking at her in the long term, there was no way that the puppy was going to make it. She was too sick, and there was nothing they could do for her condition. They had to make the tough choice to euthanize her to end her suffering. It was incredibly sad, but looking at the 19 other puppies playing in the vet's yard, they felt thankful for those little victories. If Paul hadn't spotted the crate, they might have lost them all. The puppies were scared of humans, likely having had little or rough contact before. The rescuers had to gain their trust. The puppies appeared to be from at least 2 different litters, aged between 6 and 8 weeks, and included different breeds, possibly cockapoos, poodle crosses, and jackapoos. Paul visited the vet's office to check on the puppies. The vet introduced him as a hero, and the dark puppy immediately ran to him. The head of the rescue team then suggested Paul foster some puppies until they were ready for adoption. Paul happily agreed to foster 2 puppies and help with the rescue. The RSPCA began investigating, using social media and news to find anyone who saw strange vehicles or noticed something unusual by the road. Many people wanted to adopt the puppies, but they needed more care before they could go to new homes. Some current caregivers were already considering keeping them. It was time for them to go to foster homes, but the large group of puppies couldn't be placed without names. They decided to name them alphabetically. The puppies had names, and hopefully, they would have their forever home soon. Paul came to pick up little Hank, the dark puppy, and he also took Caleb and Luna with him. They wanted the puppies to have some of their siblings with them for a while longer. The puppies had been through so much, and most of them were still really scared. Fostering a few together would help them feel less alone. The remaining 19 puppies, despite their ordeal, quickly grew stronger with few health issues. Their foster parents helped build their confidence and prepared them for their new families. They received all their shots and had time to heal. The investigators didn't forget their ordeal and kept asking for help from anyone who saw something unusual. A truck driver who passed that road in the morning checked his dash cam and found footage of a van parked where the puppies were found. It was early the same day Paul found the puppies. The license plate was clear in the recording, leading to a search for the culprits. The vehicle was from another town and registered to dog breeders, but it had been reported stolen a few days before. The investigator asked for the report and couldn't believe it. The family had stopped breeding dogs and started fostering animals. They took in 3 pregnant female dogs, and all the puppies were born around the same time. The mother dogs took turns caring for the puppies, even feeding each other's pups. With 20 puppies, it was chaotic. All the puppies grew stronger except for one sick female who didn't survive. When it was time for their shots, the foster mother loaded them into crates and drove to the vet. At a red light, a man with a gun pulled her out and stole the van with the puppies inside. The foster mother was devastated, not caring about the van, but worried sick about the puppies. The investigator later called her to say the puppies were safe, except for the one sick pup. She was relieved and cried with gratitude. The puppies had been dumped by the thief and found by kind people. The foster mother was happy that most of the puppies were already adopted into loving homes. Paul, who had found the puppies, kept one named Hank. He was grateful every day for turning around that day and saving the puppies. The other families who adopted the puppies felt the same, and the puppies were now loved and safe. The van thief was never found, but the puppies were home. Would you stop to check out a random object by the road? Share your thoughts in the comments. Thank you.